And welcome in, everyone. This is episode 133 of Catfish on Ice with your hosts, Chad Minton, Rich Howe, and Kyle Perkins. Welcome back, Rich.
Yes.
I missed you last week.
Yeah.
We are happy to have you back here on episode 133.
Glad to be back in these dog days of summer and the off season with nothing going on except for the signing of a third pairing defenseman.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We're going to get into that. We have a lot to get into, gentlemen. Even though it's the dog days of the off season, there might not seem like there's a lot going on right now. We still have a lot to get into. Kyle, how are you doing today, man?
Pretty good. Enjoying this nice cold weather we're having here lately. Rich is killing me in that hoodie.
Trust me. It is. We keep our house like a meat locker. I always want to be comfortable. So the air is always nice and cool. When you walk in here, it like hits you in the chest. It's so cold.
Good.
So,
that's all.
I don't mess around. I don't mess around in the summer. I don't like the heat.
Well, Rich was complimenting Kyle's epic beard that he has going on here. Normally, people grow out their beards during the winter, but Kyle's like, I'm not going on normal standards here. I'm growing it out during the summer.
Well, it's cheaper that way. I mean, it saves on razors. So
that's true.
Me and Rich both save money on haircuts. I'll tell you that. So.
I do. I haven't paid for a haircut in it's been decades probably.
Well, think about all that money you saved on haircuts. You could buy yourself like 5 or 6 Preds jerseys with that.
I know. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
All right.
There you go.
All right, guys. We got a fun episode lined up. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Again, Catfish on Ice. This is episode 133, presented by DraftKings and part of the Hockey Podcast Network with Chad Minton, Rich Howe, and Kyle Perkins. Please comment on the YouTube stream if you're watching right now, or hit us up on Twitter at Catfish Ice. All right.
Absolutely.
First off, throughout tonight's episode, we are going to count down the top 10 most memorable moments of the Preds season in 2021-2022. This was a group effort. We all came together in our private group chat, and through this is not one person's list. We all came together and came up with this list. We want everyone to comment as well and tell us their biggest moments, most memorable moments. There were a lot of them this past season. I know the Preds came up short and it didn't end the way we wanted it to, but it was a very exciting season full of memorable moments. So we're going to try to put it all down into the top 10 moments. We were going to do that throughout the episode. We got to get into the Stanley Cup final matchup is set. And it is, you know what? Dreams do come true for me. My dream did get crushed at the Preds once again, could not get past the first round of the playoffs. But other than that, my second dream came true. And ever since the Preds got swept by the Avalanche, I wanted it to be a collision course of Tampa Bay Lightning versus Colorado Avalanche, and I got my wish. I cannot wait to watch this matchup, guys.
Your dream is my nightmare.
I knew that was coming.
I'm with Rich. I'm rooting for Giant Meteor.
It's like picking which hammer to hit yourself with. Which one's going to hurt the least? So I'm going to pick the Colorado hammer. I think that's what I'm going to go with.
We're going to do a full preview and breakdown of this epic.
Yes.
At least you can call it that. It is an epic heavyweight matchup in the Stanley Cup final. I think it's one of the better more intriguing Stanley Cup matchups we've had in a while.
Yep.
So, I mean, buckle in. It's going to be fun. Even if you're rooting against both teams, it's still going to be so exciting to watch. And game one is Wednesday night.
Yeah.
So if you downloaded the podcast and you're watching on your Tuesday morning drive or Wednesday morning drive, I should say, Wednesday morning drive to work today, then guess what? We got game one tonight. So we got to buckle in. We're going to preview that. We got to talk about this.
Hockey. I'm rooting for hockey.
We got to talk about this this first significant offseason move that Rich already alluded to. Jeremy Lauzon gets a 4-year, $8 million deal, and it didn't take much for Preds fans to be up in arms and get those pitchforks right back out.
Yeah. It doesn't take much to begin with. It doesn't take much to rile up the masses But yeah, that did it. That did it for sure.
They didn't tuck away those pitchforks very far. They found them very quickly. As soon as we got news about that, we are going to try to decipher this. Kyle, I know Kyle's got some good stuff. Me and Kyle, I think all three of us are like really like we like Jeremy Lauzon.
I'm all in.
The glass is half full when we look at Jeremy Lauzon. So
I'm all in for sure.
Yeah, and then of course we've also got to a little bit touch on, everyone's focused on free agency and will the Preds add someone that's a free agent? But this trade market, normally you think trade market, you're thinking trade deadline during the regular season. But there's some interesting possible trade targets out there as well. Does David Poile get really aggressive here and offer up some young prospects that we might love for one of these players that are on this market? Some big names are out there. So we're going to touch on that as well.
There's one really big name.
We have a lot to get into.
Justin's in here. He says, I keep my pitchfork an arm length away. Whenever he needs it, he can just grab it easily and join in the mob.
Well, that's pretty smart when you're covering this team because they give you plenty of fodder.
Lindsay's here.
Hi,
Lindsay. Hi, friends. Nikki's in here.
Oh, okay. What's up, Nikki?
Yep. Lots of people.
Everyone's in. Awesome. Welcome in. We love having you here during the off season here. This is fun. All right. And then of course, we've got to do our fun things on the interwebs. I've got two really funny ones that really made me laugh out loud, like literally when I saw these. So we'll close the episode out with that. So this is episode 133. We're excited to get in. Let's go ahead and start tonight's episode first with the Stanley Cup preview. Lightning versus the Avalanche, the two battle of heavyweights, the Lightning going for a three-peat, which just doesn't happen hardly ever in any sport, much less in hockey and how hard it is to win a Stanley Cup in hockey, of course. So let's go to Kyle first. Your first initial thoughts on this matchup. What are your biggest storylines going into this series?
Colorado's goalie health. I think that's going to be one of the bigger stories, just for the fact of, Frank Hughes has played pretty good, but he's also not had to play Tampa Bay. The Tampa's next level good. So is Colorado. But Tampa's got the robot in net. So, that's not going to be an issue for them.
The big oversized, he's like Baymax robot in there with the big oversized pads. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh my God, that's so true. Now that you've mentioned that, I can't unsee that now. I'm going to have to make a meme out of that now.
Yes, Rich. Baymax in goal for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
But yeah, I think that right there is the biggest thing for me is do they get I just went blank. What is his name? Kemper. Do they get Kemper back?
How soon do you forget?
And is he up to snuff?
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's a very good point.
I mean, we're literally like Andrei Vasilevsky has. He's kind of like the secret weapon right now. He's trying to show everyone that he is the best goalie in the world. Why are we talking about Igor Shesterkin? No, I'm the best goalie in the world. Of course, we all love Elliot Friedman's 32 Thoughts podcast, and I gave that a listen today. Really good episode they just put out. And Elliot Friedman still seems to think, the great Elliot Friedman still seems to think that let's pump the brakes on Shesterkin as far as being the number one best in the world. It is still Andrei Vasilevsky's mantle to hold. He is the best goaltender in the world. So you're talking about two teams who have plenty of scores, plenty of depth, all that good stuff, superstar weapons. What is the X factor in this series? Well, all you got to do is maybe look at Andrei Vasilevsky, whereas the Colorado Avalanche, they got to figure out who they're going to start game one. Is it going to be Francouz, or is Darcy Kemper, who hasn't played in 2 weeks since game one of the Edmonton series? Are they going to I would go Pavel Francouz. What would you guys do game one? Just because he's been playing and he hasn't been terrible. What would you guys do?
I would probably give him one game one, and that would be it. I would see what he does and then assess from there. But yeah, I mean, Kemper hasn't played for a long time. He got him there, but 2 weeks or however long it's been longer than that. How long has he been off? 2 weeks, 2 or 3
2
weeks.
weeks. Yeah, he
2
started.
weeks.
He got chased in game one against in that crazy game one Edmonton, Colorado, where both goalies got roasted. That was when Francouz came in.
Yes, 2 weeks is a long time, especially at this point of the season. It's good rest, but yes.
That would make me so nervous throwing in a rusty goaltender that's been on the bench for 2 weeks. I don't care how good he is up against Tampa and how they're. I mean, now let's not confuse Tampa as some juggernaut offensive team. They are, they got clutch goal scorers, but they're not on Colorado's level as far as putting. They're averaging around 3 goals per game in the playoffs, whereas Colorado is much closer, almost 5 goals per game these playoffs, which is just hard for me to wrap my head around.
And Tampa Bay's coach even referenced that when he was talking about how good the Rangers are. He was saying, the last game was 2-1. There was a 3-2 win. They're just not offensive minded, like you said, that's for sure. But we know Colorado can put some on you in a hurry. So it's going to be interesting. That's for sure. I don't know.
I think it's going to be one of the better series we've had since the bubble year. I think it'll be the best series since before then.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm wondering if they're going to it's going to be really physical. Obviously, both of these teams are like bullies. So if they get, I wonder if they're going to get Kadri back in time because he's good. He's a chief agitator for those guys. So I think they'll need him. So
I think they said he was done regardless.
Oh, he's done regardless? That's a bummer.
Pretty sure that's what they said. Okay. I'll check.
Yeah.
I thought I saw in media day for Colorado that they wouldn't commit to whether he'd be back or not, but they were saying that he definitely practiced, but it was like a non-contact, like full practice for him. Like he didn't have a stick or anything like that. He was just doing light skating. That's a huge X factor right there in itself. And then you've also got to talk about Braden Point on the other side for Tampa to get him back. So both teams have some X factor players that if they get one of those players back, it tilts everything. So,
yeah, for sure. Hey, real quick before we go on, Mike Twitter is in here. I don't think we've seen.
Not seen Mike Twitter in a while. How the hell are you doing, Mike? Man, yes, you do.
What's going on? I think he's
We're seeing all of our friends here tonight. This is why we love doing this podcast.
It warms my heart.
Really awesome listeners. All right, so let's talk about all these players to watch on both teams, and there's a ton of them. Let's start with Colorado first. Let's start with Nathan McKinnon. I mean, I can argue that he's actually been the best performer in these playoffs so far. I mean, the guy is really walking the walk when it comes to I should be right up there among the best of the best with Connor McDavid and Draisaitl and Kucherov and all these other great players that have been in these playoffs. Nathan McKinnon in 14 games has 18 points. 11 of those 18 points has been goals. 80. This is actually a stat that really mind boggles me and how much he's dominant and how aggressive he's being. 82 shots on goal. He's averaging nearly 6 shots on goal per game in these playoffs. 21 minutes of ice time on average as a forward is a pretty big number for time on ice. He's just feasting, and he's also telling his teammates not to smile in the team photo.
Yeah. Oh, I saw that.
Did you see that? Not to touch the trophy.
Yeah,
there was a clip where you can read his lips, and he literally looks at one of his teammates, and his lips. If you read his lips, he says, "Hey, don't smile."
Don't smile.
And he's not. He's like stoic, like no smiles whatsoever. Like I just love that. Like the guy's like on a mission.
It's so funny how it's so funny how superstitious those guys are too. That's what's pretty cool. Don't touch it. Do you touch the trophy? Do you not? No, 9 yards. Great.
He is the definition of a dominant forward. He just whenever he's on the ice, he controls the game.
And he is fast.
Very speedy.
He is very sneaky speed.
The thing about watching the Avs throughout these playoffs, it didn't stop against the Preds. Like it continued against St. Louis, it continued against Edmonton, and now we're going to probably see it again against Tampa. Is they have so much speed. Like you think you got them pinned down, you think that you got something working, and you're going to maybe score a goal, and then next thing you know, Colorado's flipping the ice on you,
Absolutely.
and they're just on your goaltender like that. We don't really know how that feels as Preds fans. We feel like to score with this team, everything is like in quicksand, and you got to work as hard as you possibly can just to get a goal. Colorado is like on the other end of the spectrum. They make it look so easy, so effortless. I will say, don't overlook Tampa's defensive prowess.
No.
I do think that they're going to make Colorado work harder than they've had to work in any of the other series, these playoffs, when it comes to scoring. Now, if any team can break Tampa's clamps, it's going to be Colorado. But just look at what Tampa did against the Rangers in the Eastern Conference Finals. They really kept the New York Rangers from mustering anything after the first two games of that series.
Yeah, they did, but Vasilevsky did show some chinks in the armor. They definitely figured out something with him, and they took advantage of what they figured out. But then he adjusted and wound up playing as he always does. I think he's a robot, like we said. He's a droid of some sort. He's so good. I mean, as much as I don't like them, I respect all those guys on that team. He's the best goaltender in the league.
Kyle, let me ask you this. Do you actually think that this series is going – like everyone seems to think that this is going to be a replica of the Edmonton series in Colorado, like as far as just up and down the ice, there's going to be a lot of scoring. I actually think it's going to be the opposite. I think there's going to be some good defense played between these two teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think every game is going to be a track meet necessarily like it was Edmonton, Colorado. I think Tampa's going to play well defensively. Colorado's got some good defensemen as well. So I could see instances where there's a couple games in this series where it's a goaltender battle or it's a defensive struggle, even though both teams have plenty of scores. What do you think, Kyle?
I think it's going to be a lot different than it was against Edmonton, especially when you start looking at the defensive players that Tampa has versus the defensive players Edmonton has. Edmonton has Darnell Nurse, who's a pretty good defenseman. Then your next guy down is who? Duncan Keith. I mean, really, you've got
80 years old,
who's 85 years old and on a $15 million contract.
It might still come back
and play.
Tampa, you've got Hedman and all this crew of good. Is it Cernak as a defenseman, and you've got several good D men down in Tampa, and not to mention that they have a lot of forwards that play defense really well. To boot. Colorado's probably not going to be able to just. Cirelli's really good defensively.
I mean, yeah. Well, I think he's a forward, but my point is he plays really good defense.
Yes. Colorado's probably not going to be able to have that freedom through the defensive zone or through the offensive zone that they were having with Edmonton. I believe that'll make the series quite a bit different. I also don't see Vasilevsky getting ran out of the building like Mike Smith did.
No,
you might have one.
That's not going to give up a goal from the blue line.
Mike Smith is Rich's second favorite active goaltender behind Yossi Saros.
That's right.
Okay, maybe I made that up. I made that up.
It's not true.
Poor Mike.
It's good stuff though. But I think you're right. It's going to be. Colorado likes to play fast. Tampa likes to not allow people to play fast. So I think it's going to be a really good matchup. I'm excited to watch it, regardless of my dislike for. And
let's talk. I mean, I know we're Roman Yossi stands here, and I think Roman Yossi. I mean, every time I see an analytics post where they list their top 3 defensemen and they don't even include Roman Yossi, it just drives me crazy. But stupid. I mean, it's okay. They are smarter than me and they know a lot more about math and graphs and all that.
Are they
But
though?
you know, don't get me on an analytics rant right now because I don't
Yeah,
want to
right.
steer away from what we're talking about. But I will say we are at least getting a matchup of 2 of the 3 best defensemen in the world in this series. No one's going to argue that.
Nope.
And that is Cal McCarr versus Victor Hedman. And then you can throw Roman Yossi as number 3. Put them all in a group together, top 3 defensemen in the world. I'm totally cool with that. And then we can have our arguments on who's the best out of all 3 of those. But watching Victor Hedman and Cal McCarr, let's see if Cal McCarr can continue his dominance in these playoffs. I mean, it's amazing what Cal McCarr is accomplishing these playoffs. He's already played 49 playoff games. He's only 23 years old.
I always forget that he's young. It seems like he's been in a lot longer, but he's only 23 years old.
He's a baby.
22 points in 14 games, 17 assists. Of course, Elliot Friedman, going to go back to him. Elliot Friedman thinks that Cal McCarr can easily win a Hart Trophy as soon as next season. That's how highly he regards him. So that's going to be a fun matchup there. I mean, to see what see what those 2 produce for their teams as 2 of the 3 best defensemen in the world. I mean, that's fun stuff
for sure. Justin real quick said the number 1 D-man is missing, but number 2 and 3 should be fun. That's
there you go. All right.
There you go. I like it.
I like that. And then talking about Tampa Bay, another one of Rich's favorite players, I think he has a secret man crush on this player, is Pat Maroon.
No.
Pat Maroon.
Big Rig.
Pat Maroon and his average 8 minutes of time on ice per game is bringing the lumber in these playoffs in the Stanley Cup matchup here. 8 minutes of ice time per game, and the guy still makes it. I couldn't believe his ice time was so low. 8 minutes of ice time.
They're the most miserable 8 minutes the other team has to play all night.
Exactly. And the guy might win his 4th straight Stanley Cup. 2 of them, of course, with Tampa Bay, and then 1 of them with St. Louis.
Who's responsible? Who's responsible for that is his agent. He's the luckiest dude in the NHL. I'm just gonna say it. He's a big dude. Obviously, he fights really well. He scores every once in a while. But
I'm not calling him an X factor at all. I don't think he's that big of an X factor in this series, in this Stanley Cup matchup. But I will say the dude somehow figures out a way to score. He's not a big scorer, but he still somehow scores like really clutch, like dirty goals. Like that goal, that rebound he scooped up or whatever against the New York Rangers was a pretty big goal there.
Yeah, I tweeted out. I was like, if you're letting that dude score on you, you got big problems. You got huge problems. It was just a cleanup goal.
This little nugget too. So Pat Maroon has been a part of a team that's won 15 straight playoff series. So he has won 15 straight playoff series as a player, the team he's been on. So the dude is just, he doesn't know what it's like to lose in the playoffs anymore. So
no, he doesn't.
And then one streak is going to come to an end in these Stanley Cup final matchups. Either Corey Perry is finally going to win a Stanley Cup and not keep losing every time he goes to the Stanley Cup, or Pat Maroon's going to win another Stanley Cup. So which one would you rather have?
Oh, I guarantee you I'd rather have anything.
I'd rather have Corey Perry's losing streak in the Stanley Cup continue. That's what I would rather have. Personally. Yeah.
He's kind of – I'm surprised they even got him because he's a little bit of a jinx, it seems like. So,
well,
I don't know.
You know, one big streak did end this year that y'all might have seen about in this Stanley Cup final. It's the first time since like 1978 since a teammate of Jaromir Jagr has not been in the Stanley Cup finals.
Yeah,
I think it was 1978 was the first year he had a teammate in the finals. It's the first year since.
That dude's
still Jagr. I was about to say, I think Yager's still playing somewhere overseas.
Yeah, he owns the team and he plays for them.
Yeah, I read a thing. He said if he doesn't play, people won't come and the team would fold. So that's the only reason he plays. But he's like 50 whatever, and he still plays. That's awesome. Awesome.
All right, so game 1 is Wednesday night in Denver. Colorado Avalanche versus Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and do our quick predictions, and then we're going to move on to start our top 10 most memorable moments of the Preds season. Let's do it right now, rapid fire. I'll start with mine. I am going to go Colorado, and I'm going to go Colorado in 6. I am.
All right.
I feel like it's their time, and
I like it.
Tampa Bay. They have kind of had to do everything they could just to get back here, and that in itself is a pretty amazing feat. Toronto had them on the ropes. Yeah, they swept Florida, which was pretty surprising, but they swept Florida, and then they had to do. They were down 2-0 in the series to the Rangers. Everyone had them as good as dead, and then they just come storming back. I feel like Colorado is fresh and they're ready to go, and the way they play, their aggressive style, even without Nazem Kadri, I still feel like they have good enough goaltending, and they're gonna put a lot of shots on Vasilevsky. And even though he is, the world's best goaltender, he's still going to give up a lot of goals in this series, not to any fault of his own, but just because that's who Colorado is. And so I'm sorry, I got Colorado in 6, but they're going to be a very hard-fought 6 games. I don't think this is going to be a beatdown by any stretch of the imagination, but I will take Colorado in 6. Kyle, what do you have?
I'm going to agree and say Colorado, but I think it'll go 7. And I'm going to also say that you'll have at least 2 overtime games.
Oh, please get
the more the merrier, for sure.
I think these teams are pretty evenly matched. They're both very good at what they do, so I think it should lead to a very good series.
Yep. I'm going to say the exact same thing, Colorado in 7. I think some of the teams throughout the playoffs have exposed some weaknesses in Tampa Bay, and if there's any team in the NHL who can take care of those weaknesses and figure them out and do something to help them out, it would be Colorado. So I think
I'm going to use the old. I'm going to use the old sports cliche. We got next, and that's what I think Colorado is. I think Colorado is saying to Tampa, "We got next. It's our turn." I mean, Colorado, the table is set for them to be dominant for years to come. They've been building this team and this roster and this front office and everything in between up for like the past 6 years at least. You go back to like 2014. This is how long they've been putting these pieces in place to get to where they are now, and this is their pinnacle. They had some second round defeats in recent playoffs, and they put that to bed. Now they're in the Stanley Cup. It's their time. I truly feel that way. So
I agree.
Cool story for Tampa to get to 3 in a row, but Colorado is about to end it for them. No three-peat for Tampa.
No three-peat for Tampa. All right, boys.
Let's start off our top 10 moments. Rich is going to get us started here.
It is very memorable season. Lots of good things, some not so good things, but we've got 10 of what we think are the best things. So I'm going to start off with the first one. You guys might remember this little game towards the end of the season. Michael Mckinnon was on hat trick watch that night, if you'll remember. We were a little freaking out. What's going on? Couldn't believe what we were seeing. And that is the 8-0 win over the San Jose Sharks. It was a glorious game full of lots of weird things. I couldn't even believe what I was watching. I was like, who is this team beating up on another team 8-0? It was amazing. It was amazing. It was a good moment for sure.
I can go ahead and be completely honest right now with everybody. I did not ever predict that Michael Mckinnon would be on hat trick watch. That's something that eluded me. I didn't dive into the numbers and the research enough to see that coming. So I do apologize for that, guys. I will do better in the future when it comes to seeing stuff like that coming, because man, Michael Mckinnon. I mean, pay that man. Pay him.
Hey man, he was on it. I will give him that. He was playing really well.
It is a very memorable. It is a good game. It is a good moment to start off this top 10 list just because anytime you put 8 goals up on any NHL team, I don't care how bad the team is, especially when you're talking about a team like the Predators, which they're never going to be confused as an offensive juggernaut.
Yeah.
I mean, just everything was working. And then what's really memorable about that game, not just Michael Mckinnon, but look at Matt Luff. Matt Luff had a big game. That whole fourth line was basically just dominant. You had McCarron with 4 points. Roman Yossi had 4 points. Matt Luff had 3 points. Philip Tomasino had 3 points. I mean, and then you look at Yossi Saros. He only had to make 20 saves in an 8-0 win. So a very easy, chill night for Yossi Saros as well.
Yep. It was like Oprah. 3 points for you. 3 points for you. Everybody gets points. Points for all of you. It was great. It was a good game.
Number 10. It's number 10. Let's go to number 9. This game was a lot. I would say this win is actually more impressive than the Sharks win, even though it was a one-goal win. And this is very relevant considering we just got done talking about the dominance and the greatness, and we're all predicting that the Colorado Avalanche are going to win the Stanley Cup this year. That was that 5-4 gutsy win over Colorado back on January 11th when both teams had their players. It wasn't like the other times when the Preds beat the Avalanche and, you had that COVID game where both teams were missing a lot of players. No, this game had all the fireworks. It had all the highlights. This was when the Preds were like trying to maybe even push to win the division. It was still that close at that point. Now, that all came crashing down eventually. But you guys remember how exciting that game was? I mean, that was one of the best. Sure. I think that was the best win the Preds had all season.
I agree.
The most
100%. Yeah, it was good. It was a great game. And it was, most of the time as a Predators fan, you go into those big games like that and you're like, what's going to happen? Do they even have a chance? Yes, they sort of do. Maybe not. You're kind of questioning everything. And then, they pulled it off. It was great. It was really a good game.
Matt Duchene scored the last 2 goals for the Preds, including the overtime game winner on the power play. Cal Makar tied it at 4 with under 7 minutes left in regulation. Of course, that was the game where Borowiecki got knocked out and was just laying on the ice, and the play just continued. It was a very testy game. I mean, and at the time, when you look at the context of at the time, I fully remember thinking, oh, wow, like I was a little fooled. I was thinking the Preds actually have a chance here to maybe push Colorado for the division. Now, obviously, I was completely wrong on that. But that was a really memorable win looking back on it.
Yep, it definitely was. Real quick, Justin and Mike Twitter both referenced the Tomasino goal against the Rangers. Said that that's one of their top moments. And then Mike also said Ryan Johansson getting his first career hat trick. Those are both 2 really good moments for sure.
Good ones. All right.
Absolutely.
I like it. All right. Well, Kyle's going to take us to number 8.
So number 8, it's one of my favorite players. A lot of Nashville's new favorite players, and that was Connor Ingram making his NHL debut against the Minnesota Wild. Came in, made 33 saves, and became the second Predators goalie to make a win in their first start. The only other being Pekka Rinne. I remember when this game first happened, and everybody was extremely concerned. Because at the time, Minnesota was hot. Kirill Kaprizov was on a tear. You're just going to throw Connor to the wolves. This kid's whole career was almost over a year ago. He was ready to quit hockey. Has this great redemption story coming back. And then he just comes in and stonewalls one of the best teams in the league at that time. It was just an awesome night. It was an amazing game to watch.
I remember it.
That was very early in the season.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that was just very, 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 very early in the season. We were all really pumped to see Connor Ingram just live up to that. He was under a lot of pressure coming into that game, and he
Yeah.
lived up to it.
He did. And then he went on to also have another first in his career. He got his first playoff start. So that was quite the amazing year for that young man.
Yep. Very true. All right, those are our first 3 top 10 moments of the 2021-22 Preds season. Number 10 is the 8-0 stomping of the San Jose Sharks, which just doesn't happen very often.
Nope.
Michael McCarron on hat trick watch. Matt Luff's out there putting up points. Roman Yossi had 4 points in the game. It was just a crazy game. Weird game. Then the big 5-4 overtime win over the Avalanche. The Preds proved at least once this season that they could go toe-to-toe with the Avs. At least once it happened, and so I think that was their best win of the season, most impressive win. So we did that. Number 9. Number 8 is Connor Ingram's NHL debut against the Minnesota Wild, where he put up 33 saves early on in the season. That's definitely a most memorable moment. For sure. We're going to continue this list as the episode rolls along. Episode 133 of Catfish and Ice with Chad Minton, Rich Howe, and Kyle Perkins. We have got more to get into here, and that is, first, we are going to talk about what's going on in the trade market here with the Preds. How do they fit into it? Everyone thinks free agency and the draft this time of year, but there are some intriguing possibilities when it comes to the trade market out there. Most notably, David Pasternak's out there, possibly.
Holy crap.
Alex DeBrincat. Could you imagine, first of all, if Pasta came to the Preds?
It would be like some kind of weird dream coming true for me. It would be so amazing. I mean, instant game changer for the Predators if they could somehow pull that off. That dude, I mean, he had a not very good season last year because of personal stuff that happened, with his family, and he still had an amazing season. Like, I couldn't even imagine. It would be like a total game changer for the Predators.
And there's all these rumblings that are the Bruins prepared to go through a rebuild right now because they've got some things going on that could force them into a rebuild this season.
If Patrice retires,
McAvoy, their defenseman, is going to be out for 6 months or something like that.
Ooh.
Brad Marchand's out for 6 months.
Oh, he is too, isn't he?
Yeah, 2 of their better players are going to be out for a large chunk of next season.
And I saw, I don't know how, you never really can tell what's true on Twitter or the interwebs, but somebody said that Pastrnak did not want to come back with the Bruins as long as Don Sweeney was still the manager because of how he handled David Krejci. He plays in Czechoslovakia, and then Torrey Krug being traded or whatever. I think he was actually a free agent, went to St. Louis, and those were like Pasternak's best friends, and he just doesn't want to go play for him. But now another little thing is Bruce Cassidy was just named head coach of the Las Vegas Golden Knights. I don't know if you boys saw that.
I did not see that.
Yes, he is going to be the Golden Knights' next coach. And
Rich House breaking news tonight on Catfish.
Kevin Weeks and Elliot Friedman and all those other guys.
Okay, you came up behind just short of them. Okay, they barely beat you to the punch.
Yeah.
They barely beat you to the punch, Rick.
I called that one dude I knew, but yeah. So, Bruce Cassidy might make a play to try to get.
Wait, time out. I actually think that you leaked the news to Elliot Friedman and Kevin Weeks. They got their scoop from you all the way up in Kentucky.
Maybe.
I think that's how it worked. All right, maybe not.
Maybe. But anyway, yeah, awesome, man. It would be so cool if he came. But I would also be okay with getting DeBrincat as well. I think that would be amazing as well.
See, I love Alex DeBrincat. That kid is special. He's only 24 years old. That's if you could get him and get him in the organization and lock him up for a while, that's a extremely talented young player. And if you remember through this whole mess that Chicago's been through, He was the only one that wore a letter on that team that got up and said, "Hey, we screwed up. This was awful. This was bad. We have to do better." He didn't defend anybody. He straight up said, "This is absolutely terrible and it's shameful and everything else." So that shows me his character as a person to go on top of his prowess as a player. And that's the type of player I want in Nashville.
Yeah. I would be totally okay with that if there's some way it could happen, but that would be amazing.
You want to talk about exactly what the Preds need this offseason if they want to get aggressive? It's a player like Alex DeBrincat. I mean, this is exactly what the Preds have been missing is someone to really solidify the top six, and it needs to be a young, hungry, goal-scoring, pure, offensive level player like Alex DeBrincat. His age is very, very enticing right there alone, just being 24 years old. That's really enticing part of it. What really makes me question it is, do we really think that the Chicago Blackhawks are going to play nice with like the Predators when it comes to?
Yeah, Justin brought that up. He said there's no way they would trade with the Preds.
So we can live in fantasy land, but I just don't know if that's ever going to.
And I see the Pasternak thing, like the rich kid in Mighty Ducks being forced to go play with the scrubs. That's kind of how I see Pasternak.
I don't know. I just think of having Pasternak and Ryan Johansson on a line together.
Oh my gosh.
Being the funniest thing that has happened in the NHL in decades.
It would be insane. I would have never thought in a million years that we'd be talking about Boston possibly getting rid of David Pasternak, but it's insane. It's
let's
crazy.
think about the large package you would have to offer to get either one of those players in a trade. I mean, you're going to have to take a very massive risk when it comes to your future, and you're going to have to put a dent into that youth movement that everyone loves. You can't have these great players and make this big move without letting go of some very promising young players. Who do you guys think would have to be offered to get someone like that? Like not to mention draft picks and other things as well, but just as far as like you're going to have to offer at least one really big promising prospect.
Probably Lucas Pisa.
Dante Fabro.
What about I mean, you would even have to think about possibly offering up Philip Tomasino.
Shut your dirty something mouth.
I hate to say it, but
you know what? I don't even know. I don't know. I think the price would be too high, and the Predators might not have enough to offer personally, but I don't know.
That's a good point. I think you would have to really, David, to make a move like that. David Poyle would basically have to say, "Yeah, I'm not doing this whole competitive rebuild crap anymore. I'm going all in for next season. So I'm going to mortgage our future somewhat by offering up some draft picks, some really good prospects, and I'm going to go get me a DeBrincat or a Pasternak or someone else out there." But it would energize the fan base, and it would get people talking. It would get national media talking about the Preds again.
Yes, if that dude could pull off something like that, he instantly makes the Predators 100 times better than they are right now. If he could do something like that.
How far does it actually get you? Does that make you at least not a first round exit anymore? No, you make moves like you make moves like that, then teams are going to expect people are going to expect you to not only get out of the first round finally again, but you're going to have to like push for like Western Conference supremacy when you make moves like that. If you're going to mortgage your future and offer up players that are supposed to be the long-term future foundation of your team.
And then I can't remember how many years he has on his contract with Boston, but I think it's only like 2. Can they afford, like if they want to try to keep him for a while, can they afford to pay him what he's going to want along with what Yossi makes, along with $8 million for Johansson and $8 million for Duchesne? And then if they keep Forsberg and he's going to want $9 million, I just don't think it's going to be possible to pay all those people. But
that's why it would literally be a power move of
for sure.
I'm looking at next season and next season only, and I'm going to see if I can pull something special off. I mean, that's how it wouldn't be a long-term solution. I think it would be I'm buying into next season. type of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, Alex DeBrincat is the top trade target on Daily Faceoff. So you got him. They also listed so Felipe Myers is considered a top trade target, not because he's wanted or desired necessarily, but because he can actually save his future team cap money because of the way his contract works, is backloaded or whatever. So they're thinking that for sure Felipe Myers is going to get traded by the Predators, and whichever team takes him is actually going to save money against the cap by taking his contract on. So I found that kind of interesting. Kevin Fiala is hanging out there as a possible trade target. Kyle's shaking his head no.
He's still a big man child.
And he would be extremely expensive. We're talking like $7 to $8 million expensive per year. So that's a risky move. I think that's way more risky than Pastrnak or DeBrincat. And then there's also talk that the New Jersey Devils could be possibly shopping their number 2 overall pick. Do you think the Preds could ever dream about getting that bold and getting the number 2 pick and what is a really, really solid draft class this year?
Well, I can't even imagine what they would want for that pick in return.
I mean, if you're really all about this youth rebuild and stuff and you're trying to continue to restock this prospect pool and build for the future, you get that number 2 pick, you're quite possibly getting yourself a future superstar in a couple years. So it's the longer route to getting a top scoring player because it's going to be a rookie. But I don't know. I think the Preds can be in the market for the number 2 pick if the Devils are offering it. I think David Poile picks up that phone and at least kind of inquires about what the Devils are looking for. I do think that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they also need to figure out what they're going to do with Forsberg like soon. And then so that they can figure out like if they need to go get somebody to replace him as well. Cause like if he leaves, that leaves a big, massive hole in the Predators, and they're going to need someone like a DeBrincat or somebody like that to fill that hole.
And you've already talked about this, though. If the Preds don't hold on to Philip Forsberg, then you need to just go ahead and forge ahead next season into what's going to be a rough season.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to really buy into this whole rebuild thing and continue to prop up your younger players. Yeah. If they lose Forsberg and then they try to go out and trade for DeBrincat, that's like digging yourself deeper. Yeah, you might get a replacement for Forsberg, but does that make you that much better because you've also lost Forsberg? So I don't know about that.
Yeah, you need a Forsberg and a DeBrincat. Yeah, you need both to make them successful next season. That's what they missed this year, is they didn't have the other piece. So I don't know. It's weird.
That's what really holds all the cards right now is what is Philip Forsberg going to do. We saw him at CMA Fest, and he looked very, very happy.
Yeah, and he was
he
actually
he got the crowd. If you want to read between the tea leaves here, you think he would show up all happy at CMA Fest if he didn't think he was going to re-sign here? I don't know.
Yeah,
and there was a glass half full.
Yeah, there was something on his Instagram today. He was walking out on the turf at the Nashville SC's field. He was there today for some reason, hanging out on the field. So
he's a big soccer guy. He's a big gamer. He's a big soccer guy. Speaking of which, forgot to mention, to round out episode 133 tonight, we got Tim Sullivan of Club and Country joining us. He's been in the journalism industry, sports journalism industry for a long time. He covers a multitude of different sports, but his big thing he's been doing lately since Nashville SC Soccer came here is covering that team. He does a great job. He joined me earlier today to talk Nashville SC Soccer. We called it Catfish on Grass instead of Catfish.
That's awesome.
So
they need something.
He got us caught up on Nashville SC. I learned a little bit. I'm a very novice beginner soccer fan, so it was really awesome to have him join and talk about the top players on the team. How's the soccer club looking? that brand new, awesome soccer stadium,
Oh, yeah.
Geodis Park, the biggest soccer-specific stadium in Canada and the United States. Did you guys know that?
Is it really? I didn't know that.
30,000 people is how many the stadium can fit, which doesn't seem like a lot compared to football stadiums, but for soccer, that's a very high capacity. So
It's huge.
pretty cool. Also, Nashville SC has not lost a home game in 25 straight matches. So that's pretty good stuff there.
Those dudes filled up Nissan Stadium when they were playing there, so
Exactly. So stay tuned for that conversation. That's going to end tonight's episode 133 of Tim Sullivan of Club and Country.
Very cool.
All right, let's continue with our top 10 biggest moments here with number 7. Rich is going to tell us what number 7
I have
is.
number 7. We are blessed with one of the best defensemen in the NHL with Roman Yossi. There was many times this season when his name was mentioned in the same breath as Bobby Orr, and he is definitely the superstar of this team, and he is our elite player for the Predators. He went on a 13-game point streak, and it was the longest point streak by a defenseman ever for the Predators. So I know you guys remember that, how awesome that was. He just kept going and going, and there was, I think he finished up the season with 96 points total. He was really stretching to get to that 100, and he didn't quite make it, but 96 is strong, especially for a defenseman. So
very strong. I would have liked to have seen 100. Just to see it, just to see 100 points would have been cool. But 96 is good enough.
For sure.
Yeah, what a season for him. All right, that's a good one. Let's go to number 6. We're getting into some big ones here. We're getting into some big milestones that happened over the season. All right, all season long, as the season rolled along, Matt Duchene and Philip Forsberg were basically just trading goals. I mean, every night one would score, then the other one would score. They were feeding off each other. That chemistry they had with each other was one of the best developments we got from the entire season was those two finding that chemistry together. We've already touched on it. We touched on it in last week's episode, me and Kyle did, talking about how if Forsberg's lost, that's going to be horrible for Duchene to lose that chemistry with Forsberg. So, number 6 on our top 10 biggest and most memorable moments of 21-22 Preds season is when the night that Matt Duchene and Philip Forsberg both tied the single season goal record, which was held by Victor Arvidsson at 34 goals. The fact that 2 players tied that record on the same night that's pretty incredible stuff there.
And it was in the third period, right? Weren't both of them in the third period?
Yeah, sure they were. The fact that they both just kept trading goals all season, and then on the same night, because we were speculating all season as it was getting closer. Okay, who was going to actually break the record first?
Yep.
And everyone seemed to think it was going to be Forsberg, but I mean, the fact that they both tied the record at the same time on the same night was pretty special stuff. So that was number 6. Let's go to number 5. Let's go to Kyle for number 5 on our list.
Number 5 is Roman Yossi breaking Paul Kariya, the legendary Paul Kariya's 17-year-old record for the most assists in a single season. Yossi was he was a cheat code pretty much all year. If you look at it, he had 20 more assists than the next best player on the team, and that was Granlund at 53. And he had 46 more assists than the next defenseman, which was Alexander Carrier. So that just shows you how much better he was than everybody on his own team as far as being the setup guy. If Paul Kariya was more towards the end of his career when he played in Nashville, but he's still one of the best forwards to play the game. And to have a defenseman break that record, that is something that is just extremely special.
He wound up with 73 assists. I don't know if you guys go to the Predators website very often, but they have the section where it has all the records or whatever. And it's good to finally see some other new faces on those.
Other than David Legwand. Yeah, he's still on there. David Legwand's still on there, but we've got, a lot of Roman Yossi now and Philip Forsberg and all that. So it's good to see. So Roman Yossi broke Kariya's record by 19 assists. And then what's really cool is Mikael Granlund came in third all time with 53 assists.
Mhm.
Mikael Granlund also almost broke Korea's previous record. So we got to throw some love to Granlund on that one
Yep.
because that's pretty
Absolutely.
impressive there.
For
So,
sure.
yeah, that's a good one. All right, we're going to continue our top 10 biggest moments. Let's recap it real quick. Number 10 was the 8-0 drubbing over San Jose. Number 9 was the 5-4 gutsy win over Colorado back in January. Number 8 was Connor Ingram's NHL debut versus the Wild. Number 7 was Yossi's 13-game point streak that finally came to an end, the longest by a defenseman in Nashville Predators history. Number 6 was Duchesne and Forsberg tying the single-season goal record on the same night. And number 5 was Yossi setting the single-season assist record broken on Paul Kariya's record of 17 years. So those are our top 5. We've got 4 more to go. We will finish this list out towards the end of the episode. This is fun stuff here. And that just goes to show you, honestly, how many special moments happened in this past Preds season. I know they got swept. I know it was a very big disappointment in how it ended, but we really do got to be happy about how this past season went and just all the excitement, all the good stuff that happened, because it really was just a really fun season.
Yep. And looking back on it now, I don't know if we've talked about this before. Colorado's a buzzsaw. They've buzzed through everybody they've played in the postseason. So it hurts to see the Predators get swept, but Colorado's doing it to all these guys, all these teams, and to teams who are better than the Predators were. So you can't feel too bad about it. It still hurts, but it's not as bad.
Nope, it's not. All right. Speaking of which, let's throw some love to DraftKings. We are presented by DraftKings, our awesome sponsor, and this is your last chance to get in on this Stanley Cup offer that we've been offering all throughout the playoffs. Hockey fans, the pursuit for the Stanley Cup is on, and now that we're in the Stanley Cup final, DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NHL and has an unbelievable offer for the most exciting playoffs in sports. New customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $100 in free bets no matter what. So you can throw your money down right now on Game 1 Wednesday night. Take Tampa, take Colorado. All you got to do is bet $5 and you can bring back $100 in free bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win and get $100 in free bets no matter what. That's code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. Please see our show notes for details on gambling help. And if you have a gambling problem, DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. And you can also go even deeper with it. Create your own parlay by combining multiple bets, like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more. It's your shot at an even bigger payout. Go do it now. Go have fun with DraftKings Sportsbook with promo code THPN. Throw down $5 on either the Colorado Avalanche or the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 1.
Yep.
Let's talk about the first significant offseason move of the Preds offseason. Ooh, yeah. Jeremy Lauzon.
Yes.
Which we're all big Jeremy Lauzon people.
I am.
We all like him here.
Unapologetically.
But Preds fans are not happy about this. Overall, they are upset. The only reason why I can see why someone would be somewhat upset about this is, yes, I get it. 4 years might seem a little long. But it's not like this is going to be a hard contract to move if for some reason in year 2 or year 3, it's not working out. It's not that expensive of a contract.
Yep, for sure.
$2 million AAV is not that bad.
No, and they, I don't remember exactly what Matt Benning was making. I know it was more than $1 million. It was like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I see Lauzon as an upgrade to him, and $2 million a year for an upgrade to someone you were paying maybe 1.5 or 1.8. I don't have a problem with it. The 4 years is a little long, it seems, but I'm all in on him. I like him. I've always liked him. He's a good player. He plays to that identity.
Benning was making $1 million.
$1 million. Okay. Well, I see him as an upgrade. Yeah. So I think that's
I mean,
a good upgrade.
You're paying $2 million for a player instead of $1 million. It's still, you're looking for that elusive third pairing defenseman that's not going to be a liability. That's going to use up effective minutes. No one's asking Jeremy Lauzon to come in here and turn into the next Roman Yossi or anything. No, we just need him to make smart plays, be a bruiser, be a hitter, be a shot blocker, be a penalty killer. That's one of the things I have the most excitement about when it comes to Jeremy Lauzon and what he can pull off for us after making this contract. Can you contribute on the penalty kill? Can you lay your body out on the line? A lot like what Mark Borowiecki does. I'm very intrigued to see Mark Borowiecki and Jeremy Lauzon be the full-time third pairing defenseman duo. I would like to see that next season.
For sure.
Well, you look at the Predators prospects right now, you do not have a big stay-at-home defensive defenseman in the prospect pool other than Spencer Stastny and Luke Prokop. Those are your only two guys in the prospect pool that are defensive defensemen. Every other one of them is small and more offensively minded. David Ferentz is not going to come up to play third pair. He's just not. He's not built for it. He's not physical enough to play that third pair defenseman role. It's just not going to happen. Pretty much you've got those two guys that are the only prospects in the system that are
for sure
defensive players.
Good point.
I really like signing Lauzon. A lot of people everybody expects every free agent defenseman we sign to come in and play on the third line to come in and be Roman Yossi. That's for some reason. And it's exactly not going to happen. It's not what they're here for. It's not what their contract doesn't come in and say, "Hey, I need you to get 60 assists and 20 goals." No. Their contract is more, I need you to come in here and put your face in front of this puck and maybe go punch a few guys. And
a lot of your analytics people, I know Dom on there didn't like the move. There's a couple other accounts out there, prominent analytics accounts. Basically came at the Preds for, you're going to spend 4 years, $8 million on a replacement level type of player, a player that's more of a plug and play, not really a full-time third pairing defenseman. And that's kind of where I break away. And I actually have way more optimism that Jeremy Lauzon can become a full-time regular third pairing defenseman. And obviously Poyle feels the same way. Otherwise he wouldn't have made the deal. And that was why he was picked up at the trade deadline to begin with, because he was an RFA, and the Preds knew they would have some leverage there. And, David Poyle was thinking way down the road into the offseason when he made that addition of Jeremy Lauzon. Unfortunately, Lauzon did have an injury towards the end of the regular season that hampered him a little bit, but he did get back into the series against Colorado. Let's be quite frank, no one really had a good series against Colorado, so I'm not going to hold anything against what Jeremy Lauzon did in that series. But I'm intrigued with what he can bring to this team next season. We need stability at that third pairing so badly.
Yep. And I 100% agree with what Kyle said about, he's a defensive defenseman. That's what you need. Not everyone is Roman Yossi. Not everyone is Victor Hedman. The dude's making $2 million a year to be a defenseman, and that's what he does. He's not a goal scorer. We can't expect him to be every defenseman we get to be a goal scorer, exactly like you said, Kyle. I 100% agree. I think people have a skewed view of what the defenseman's role is for the Predators, and they need to reevaluate that a little bit and not get so caught up in, we need him to score, because we don't need that.
Players like Jeremy Lauzon are very important to becoming a successful postseason team. Yeah. Like, they don't get all the accolades. They get overlooked on a lot of these great teams because a lot of these great teams have superstars, and so everyone's focused on those players. But there are players who get overlooked, but they're doing the dirty work. They're doing the difficult things that don't always show up in the box score. And Jeremy Lauzon, hopefully, can become that type of player for this Preds team. Also, I feel like Lauzon has a little bit of offense in him. I know he's got a shot. He's got a shot on him. So we'll see. Yeah. I think he can bring more. I think he can bring more offense than Matt Benning or Mark Borowiecki brings.
Yeah, for sure.
Or Ben Harper, for that matter.
Yeah, I actually saw somebody when the news came out. They were like, "Well, he sucked in Seattle," and I'm like,
"Everybody
sucked in Seattle last year. You can't." And then they're like, "He didn't do anything when he was with Boston," and I'm like, "Yeah, because all these other defensemen who are awesome were playing at the time. McAvoy, I think when Lauzon came in, Chara might even still been on the team. I mean, yeah, so I think he was. As a matter of fact, he was. So, dude, it's $2 million. Cut the dude a break."
So, what's the most demeaning play in hockey? A shorthanded goal.
Oh, for sure.
How do most shorthanded goals start? One good penalty killing defenseman takes the puck away or makes a block down low around the goalie and has one pass to a forward streaking down the ice.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you need from Lauzon is a block and one pass.
If he can become a reliable penalty killer, then that's already right there, money well spent, in my opinion.
I agree.
All right,
you live and die with your penalty kill.
Now we're just waiting on Forsberg to resign. Hopefully, this is just an appetizer to Forsberg being re-signed here shortly. So, trust me, we will probably do it. I probably won't even be able to contain myself, even if I'm at work when it's announced. I'm probably just going to hop right on and immediately just record a podcast. Just to show my
Absolutely.
All right. Let's move on. Let's round out episode 133 by finishing off our top 10 biggest moments of the 2021-22 season. And then I got two funny things I came across on the interwebs, and then we'll get to the interview with Tim Sullivan of Club and Country to do some Nashville SC soccer talk. We'll turn into Catfish on Grass to close out episode 133.
That sounds like some kind of drug reference.
It does.
Catfish on Grass.
Colorado catfish there.
I didn't mean for it to come out that way, but it totally does. Is that our next shirt? Is that our next shirt idea? Is Catfish on Grass?
I don't know, man.
Red eyes and everything.
Oh God,
that's pretty good though. Sorry.
All right.
Sorry.
We're at number 4, Rich. What's number 4 on our?
We're at number 4. We talked about it earlier a little bit. Duchesne, Forsberg, battling it out. Both tied Arvidsson's single season goal. What was it? 34. Forsberg actually broke that record with 35, and then took that title for a little bit. Arvidsson had it for a long time, and
didn't he break it? Didn't Forsberg break it on an empty net goal?
He did.
Pretty sure.
I read that earlier today. Yes, he did.
What game was that? Was that against Anaheim? I'm trying to remember.
It was against Anaheim. I just looked it up because I couldn't remember either, but it was against Anaheim. Yep. 6-3 road victory over the Ducks.
Yep. Duchesne, before that, scored his 34th goal.
Yes.
Duchesne. So both Duchesne and Forsberg had 2 goals in that game against Anaheim. Yeah. Forsberg scored number 34, so he officially tied the record first. Then Duchesne scored 2 in a row to get to number 34. Yep. And then Forsberg gets the empty netter against the Ducks. So, that's a good one. All right, that's pretty memorable.
Yep, that's
all right. All right, number 3 is we're going back to Connor Ingram. And I'm going to throw out, even though it was a loss, I'm probably going to remember this forever as a Preds fan. That Game 2 Goliath of a performance by Connor Ingram, that gutsy performance in Game 2. And I will forever have to wonder what could have been in that series if the Preds steal Game 2. I'm not saying they would have won the series, but it could have been a hell of a lot more competitive. Could you imagine if they could just given Connor Ingram a little goal support in that game, if they were coming back for Game 3 with that series tied 1-1.
Yep.
But either way,
yeah,
so
he put
memorable.
such a performance, man. Such an awesome performance. It was so good. Yeah, it was a shame. Shame that it ended the way that it did.
The Preds would end up losing in overtime. Connor Ingram had 49 saves on 51 shots faced 51 shots, .961 save percentage against this Colorado Avalanche team that we're about to watch in the Stanley Cup, who has already swept Edmonton. And I think they won in 6 against St. Louis. St. Louis did put up a good fight against them.
They did.
But still, that is most memorable there is Connor Ingram's 49 saves in
That was good.
51 shots to take us to overtime. What could have been? We'll never know. But that series suddenly changes a lot if Connor Ingram somehow steals game 2. And that's kind of a cliche in hockey, but you always talk about it. Can a goaltender steal you a game? Can a goaltender steal you a playoff series? Well, absolutely. Connor Ingram did his job in that game, that's for sure.
He did.
Yep.
Very awesome.
All right, number 2 is going to Kyle, and I think we know it was that game that was in that big stadium outside, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah. And Kyle was there.
Yeah, the coldness that was the stadium series. And even though that game was a loss, I think it was a win for the team. It was a win for the city. It was a win for hockey in the South. 2 Southern teams put 70,000 fans in a football stadium in the middle of winter to watch a hockey game.
And that was another. And we didn't mean to do it this way, but it worked out pretty good. So number 3 was against one Stanley Cup final opponent, and then number 2 was against the other team in the Stanley Cup final this year. So in both games, the Preds played very well to the competition on a big stage. Now they lost, and losses, all it matters is who wins and who loses. But the point of the matter is these 2 teams were getting ready to watch these heavyweights in the Stanley Cup final. Well, the Preds played both of these teams well in certain moments this past season. So there is something to hang your hat on there. That game, that stadium series, when we're talking about the game itself, first of all, the way the city handled it, they handled it like they handle every big-time sporting event in the city. They just knocked it out of the park. The stadium was gorgeous. It was under the lights. What they did around the ice with all the designs and stuff was really cool. The stadium series jerseys grew on me. I still think they're kind of ugly, but they did grow on me a little bit. The big Smashville letters, But yeah, it was a really cool moment. You have to put that at number 2.
And Kyle got to experience the whole thing firsthand.
It was wild.
He took in all of the things about Nashville.
And then I think Kyle was struggling for a couple of days after that. If I remember correctly, you were.
I was struggling. I am not 21 anymore. I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot more time to recover when you get older. Like, you can't just bounce back the next day quickly. All right, Rich, you're going to do the honors. You're going to do our number 1 top moment of the Preds season.
Man, it was.
And try not to cry when you.
I actually did that night, and it's when they retired Pekka's jersey. Man, it was such a memorable thing, and I'm not gonna lie, I did tear up. It was crazy just seeing, his parents were there, his sisters were there, obviously his son and wife.
Shea Weber was there.
Shea Weber was there.
That actually even made it more emotional for me when I saw Shea Weber back there. I'm you're going to put Shea Weber back there too? Like, come on now.
Yeah, everybody loves him so much. And I can't remember all, but there was Jordan Tutu was there. I mean, like a bunch of dudes were there. It was just
Timo Timonen was there, I believe.
Yep, that's right. Cool. Yep. I was trying to remember who all was there, but just, they announced that they're going to put a statue out in front of Bridgestone of Pekka Rinne. If there's anybody on that's ever played for the Predators that deserves that, it's him. So I was kind of bummed, to see him selling his house. I thought he was going to come back and live here for a while and do stuff, but maybe one day he'll come back and be involved with the Predators again in some capacity.
I'm really happy for Pekka, though, that he went out on his own terms and he ended up finishing his career off very special in Nashville. I know he doesn't have the Stanley Cup, but you know what? There's plenty of all-time great players who don't have a Stanley Cup, and the Stanley Cup is still a team award. So I don't hold it against Pecorino that he doesn't have a Stanley Cup. If it were up to me, he's a Hall of Fame player. It really hurts his case because he doesn't have a Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
it's really difficult. It's really difficult as a goaltender to make it into the Hall of Fame without a Stanley Cup. But be that as it may.
Yeah, and it was cool to see him. He got to actually go hang out with all the guys for the Stadium Series game. They got him one of the jackets like they all had, the leather jackets. They were all dressed up and stuff, so that was kind of cool.
And then the epic image of them throwing the catfish at Pekka, and he was like trying to catch it or whatever.
Yeah, and he actually threw one, and he almost hit a photographer or something. That was kind of funny. He was like freaking out, thinking he hit her, but
him and Taylor Lauzon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. It was really emotional. I know you guys probably got a little dusty at your houses too, but
for sure,
it just sucked. It just sucks so bad to see him because I didn't get to enjoy his career as long as like obviously Chad did. Coming in later, watching the team, but like he's my favorite player.
You caught the best of it, though.
He's my favorite player.
Caught the best of it for sure. All right, good stuff. Those are our top 10 most memorable moments of the 2021-22 season. We got some good ones already from some of our listeners as far as some other one. The Johansson hat trick, that was a good entry there into the top 10 for sure. All right, so before we get to our interview with Tim Sullivan of Club and Country to talk Nashville SC soccer, let's do some fun things on the interwebs that I came across to really hit this with a humorous note here like we like to do. All right, guys. I always laugh at some of the outtakes you get from the show Jeopardy. And, you're talking about these contestants are so smart. Like, they just, like, every time I watch Jeopardy and I try to get these questions right, I'm like, I don't know half of them.
It makes you feel really dumb. I'm gonna be honest.
It's also equally hilarious whenever they miss one really badly that you feel like, oh, I knew that one.
That you're like, you're not so smart.
So this one went viral and it's really hilarious. Everyone needs to look it up. But Jeopardy contestant had a question, and the classic actor Michael Caine, who was in The Dark Knight, he was in Now You See Me, he was in Austin Powers Goldmember. Look up Michael Caine. He's a all-time great actor. They put a picture of him up, and the Jeopardy contestant very, very confidently says, "Who is Mick Jagger?" From Rolling Stone.
Hey man, both of those dudes are old. That is about all they have in common. They're probably similar in age, and that's it.
The Jeopardy host is like, "No, that's not Mick Jagger." But I thought that was hilarious.
That's good.
To get it so wrong, to think it's Mick Jagger. So now I'm thinking every time I see Michael Caine, I'm gonna think of Mick Jagger now.
For sure. Jeopardy's tough, man. That's a tough game. That's for sure.
All right, and then probably one of the best sports roasts I've heard in a very long time. And anytime I can laugh at the Dallas Cowboys, I'm gonna take it and run with it. I think Kyle knows where I'm going with this.
I think I saw
There was a weatherman, and I got to give him all the credit in the world for coming up with this. This is just a great roast here. I don't even know where this weatherman was based out of. I should have looked that up, but he's doing like the 7-day forecast, and he's showing all the highs for every day of the week, and they're all like in mid-90s. And he basically says, so temperatures this week are peaking in the 90s all week, just like the Dallas Cowboys. And he says it so like stone, like he's not even laughing. It's just straight stone cold peak, just like the Cowboys did in the 90s. I just thought that was amazing.
That's hilarious.
Oh,
give that man a rating.
The one I saw about the Cowboys was different. It was just a tweet. It said, sometimes when I'm feeling bad about myself, I'll go on Cowboys Twitter and remind them about their 4 playoff wins in the last 14 years.
Oh my gosh.
Just so that they'll have to correct me that it's only been 2 wins in 14 years.
That's hilarious. That's a good one too.
Who's your NFL team again, Kyle? Did you say it's the Bears?
We don't talk about it.
But
it's the Bears.
The Bears.
The Bears.
All
That's
right. Well, that's
good.
all right.
Yeah.
I mean, we're tight. I mean, I'm a Titans fan. I mean, it doesn't get much better for me either. So, you know.
Yeah. I'm unaffiliated, I guess. I really don't have one. So
You're just a Titans fan then by
I'll
default.
say,
All right.
yeah.
Covering
Take-
Nashville, so you have to be a
Yeah.
Titans fan.
That'll work.
All right, let's get to our interview with Tim Sullivan to talk some Nashville SC soccer. Let's do this whole catfish on grass thing. I can't get that out of my head now. That's hilarious. All right, this has been fun. Thanks everybody for listening to
Yes, for
episode
sure.
133. Stay tuned for the interview with Tim Sullivan of Nashville SC, covering Nashville SC club and country. Stay tuned for that. Thanks everybody for listening tonight. This is Catfish on Ice with Chad Mitten, Rich Howe, and Kyle Perkins.